You're listening to Nurture Your Zest. I'm your host, Ashleigh King, and I will introduce you to a wealth of interesting, fascinating individuals from all walks of life who will share their stories, how they've overcome challenges, and you will find out their top tips for success. Through this podcast, you can gain tips to grow and change your life and the way you see the world, and help you to nurture your zest. Hello and welcome to Nurture Your Zest. Today I am joined by Gabriele. Gabriele is an awesome young woman who I have the pleasure of working with on TEDxNewcastleUniversity. And I don't want to give away all of her biography without her telling you about it herself, but I would love to introduce you to Gabby.
Hi, thank you for having me.
Thank you. And can you tell us, so as a young student, what are you studying and where are you from?
So I'm studying Biomedical Genetics in Newcastle University, and I'm actually from Lithuania, so it's quite a bit of a way back.
So that's awesome. And I'm interested in knowing, how did you get into genetics? And also, how did you find Newcastle University when you could have studied anywhere in Europe?
So I guess both answers are quite accidentally, actually. So my grandmother is a doctor, and so I have been growing in an environment that's always been around healthcare. So I guess that's what pushed me towards it, even though I wasn't never actually interested in like patient to doctor. But the backside of it, how do diseases work? How do they develop? How does actually everything around us work? So that's mainly why I chose biomedical sciences, because I was interested in the process itself rather than how to help people. I'd like to do that in other ways. And Newcastle was actually really accidental, because I just looked at, I guess, ratings for my course, but as well as I really wanted to, if I'm going away from home, I want to go to a university that has like a historical feel around it. And Newcastle's university's campus is like all about that. So it is a very weird reason, I guess, to go somewhere. But all the universities I looked over, I fell in love with Newcastle's university campus. Honestly, the buildings, I was like, I need to go there. If I'm going to anywhere in the UK, I need to be somewhere that actually has a feel around it. And it makes you feel special in that way.
And I love that. And it is a very special city, very beautiful campus. And we're fortunate to both study at Newcastle, which is how we got to meet each other and became friends. So in a very separate podcast to this, Gabriele and I will talk about going to TED Women in California, which we had a real privilege of doing. And it's an amazing thing, because you don't even just get to go, you have to apply, which is quite incredible. But I know we're going to speak about TEDx on that, but I would like to know, how did you discover TEDx and why is it important to be involved in a society?
So first of all, it was absolutely an honor and such an amazing experience to go there. I guess TEDx came to me when I needed it rather than I came to it. So I was walking around the Societies Fair. I just moved to the UK. I have been living in other places before, but actually moving somewhere with, like half a body still elsewhere. And my mind is all about family and how I'm going to do from now on. And all my loved ones are far away. And I was just walking around the Societies Fair, and I saw some friendly faces. So one of them was baking, which I still continue to do, and the other was TEDx. And I'm not even sure who said hi and how it all went on, but I just remembered the name. I was like, I know this brand. This sounds familiar. This could be the society, the international pocket that I'm looking for in Newcastle that could welcome me in the ways that maybe other societies will not in that ways, because it's always a cultural thing in just a few months. That's why we all try to stick around Lithuanian people at first, so just a community thing. So I guess TEDx attracted me in a way, and how international and how the audience itself is very global, meaning everything that happens in the channel is not as way specific, which it could be, but also quite relatable. So I guess that's what we try to continue now with the friendships and everything we build in the society and with things we want to say to them. But I guess it was just a warm feeling of feeling accepted and actually getting to discuss things with people who know as much English as I do, which is a small thing, but it's still something that makes you feel welcome in a country that you don't know at all.
Absolutely. And how was it for you moving to a new country? So you've spoken about feeling a bit lost at first and missing your family and feeling homesick. And I'm wondering, how did you get through that? So you found the society. Was there anything else you did? Did you have any coping strategies, or did you make your favorite recipes from home? Or how did you cope with that big change?
So first of all, this wasn't my first time moving away from home. This was long term, but I did know how to live with myself, what I need to survive for a month, for a year, for a few weeks. So in that way, it was quite easy to take care of myself. But I guess it was a bit weird from that sense that everyone around me kind of seemed like they went here with friends, even locals, even Lithuanian people, which I've still found some that didn't. But I was quite fortunate because actually Aggie, our speakers coordinator, someone introduced me to her just a few days before I flew out here, meaning I knew one familiar face. I never saw her before. I've never seen her. We did literally just connect on Facebook. And the first day I went to Newcastle, it was a long, long flight, and I came from London through a bus through the night. It was terrible. But that first day I actually saw her, and I was like, okay, this is a familiar face. There's honestly so many people. There's 40,000 students around me at the moment, and I could still see a familiar face. So I guess that slide of hope was also there. And the Lithuanian society and the Lithuanian community, even though we're a really small country, somehow Newcastle is full of us, which might be a bit annoying at times. But at first, it's so comforting to know that someone else knows what you're going through, what you missed exactly, what products you miss, even though you've never liked them before. It's just something that connected us all. So I guess the community feeling helped me. I don't think it went well for me to not realize that at first. It was a hard transition period. But the first 2 months, it did help me because I was like half there. I still had people I was really attached to. I had hopes that I'll come back or someone will come with me. So I didn't really commit to being here and to living here as I am committed now. So there was a transition period. It wasn't easy. The first months until Christmas were quite terrible in a lot of ways. But I guess it helped me find my ground and what I need actually, just not just from the technical side, but from emotional and how to actually be with myself or people around me, how to let go. It was a lot that came my way in those few months, honestly.
Those are some big, challenging learning experiences at 18 years old. That would have been, yeah. So, and I think many students go through this when they first go to university, being away from home. And in some ways, it's great, that freedom and that, opportunity to do whatever you want and explore. But at the same time, also feeding yourself and planning your diary and your timetable, making sure you go to university on time, all of these different things. So, but as you did say, you have already had that experience as a very young person traveling around Asia, living in countries all over the world, which I think is incredible as a young person to do so young. And I know that you love traveling. Is there a place that you've been to that you've really, really loved?
I guess, so I've been traveling since I was really, really small. Actually, my first trip abroad was when I was 2 months old because I was just born and my parents went to Denmark. So they gave me with me. So there's actually a photo of me in the yields of strawberries. So I guess it was always part of my lifestyle, my family's lifestyle. But the places I've really enjoyed are the most that are with me at the moment. So I do appreciate all the experience I had, but I don't think I've ever appreciated the traveling itself as much as I do now. Even Scotland seems like such a beautiful thing to me every time I go, or I've been to LA before we went to TED Women, but it was just a different thing again. So I guess every time I go anywhere, even where I've been before, it seems like a different perspective, approach. Therefore, I guess a few places, which would be, of course, I've been to Tokyo, but just slightly, but it was still very lovely. I would really want to come back to see how I would approach that, but as well as I want to explore more of Europe, maybe come back somewhere where I don't even remember where I actually was. So there are a few places I would like to explore, but I mean, probably the favorite ones I have at the moment are the ones that I just visited recently, because that just means that I can relate to them as much as I can do now before developing on the next stages.
Yeah, great. And you've actually, can you tell us what you were doing traveling around the world so young?
Sure. So I actually had the opportunity to model around the world, so it does sound very broad. It wasn't as glamorous as that all the time, but it was still an opportunity to develop myself, to network with a lot of people I would have never had a chance elsewise. So I was approached by someone when I was, I guess, 13, and then I had a contract from 14 till 18th. So it was 4 years of some kind of lifestyle that I wasn't sure if it was mine. The one thing I was sure that was not going to be mine for long. I was just always about opportunities rather than actually developing into something. But it was still an amazing opportunity to meet a lot of people, and I still learn from the mistakes I've made, while also challenging the people around me to see the new approaches. So it taught me a lot, but as well as I don't think I would have had the chance to go around Asia at 15 years old and to live alone in Thailand for 3 months on my own without parents, anything. So it was a lot of life lessons. I can't say they were all successful, all the trips and all the experiences, but I guess I grew in a lot of ways, which helps me now. And I'm so glad that I had the opportunity.
I'm so glad you had that opportunity, and I'm really proud of you, because I know when we've spoken about it, sometimes it's not just being on your own, but in another country as well, in a country where people aren't always speaking English. I mean, that's one thing, and it does sound very glamorous, wearing beautiful fashion items, walking up the catwalk, photo shoots. But actually, I think a lot of people see the glamour and they don't see the early mornings, or the fact, you've mentioned this before, having to be tired from a photo shoot, or modeling all day, and then you've got to go to the gym, and you've got to make sure you get enough beauty sleep, and you've got to be at the makeup chair for 4 a.m. or all of these types of things. So it's really nice, I think, to hear what you accomplished so young, but also that you then decided to turn from model to scientist, geneticist, which is amazing. I love that. I think girls can do whatever they want, and you are certainly a role model for girls in STEM, which is awesome. So yeah, genetics. You've mentioned your grandmother was in medicine and in healthcare, and it's always in your family. For you going forward, you've still got many years ahead of you at uni. What would be your ideal dream job right now? Can you say it, or are you still not sure?
I'm working on it specifically, but I am looking for a placement year at the moment, meaning I have to have a direction. So I've been always naturally drawn to business and management, which is a totally the opposite thing to what I'm doing at the moment, but therefore I'm planning to do a master's in that. So I guess the dream job would be management or business position, but with a scientific background, helping people to maybe overcome some things, healthcare problems, making healthcare better, everything around healthcare. I'd like to understand the processes, but I think I'd be rather better on the other side of the table rather than in the lab itself.
And I can actually attest to Gabriele having a very good mind for understanding things. So she is very good at analytics and thinking in a operational way. So Gabby and I do work together on TEDxNewcastleUniversity, and I think I bring a lot of creative chaos to this to the team, whereas Gabby takes that chaos and makes it into nice little boxes of order. And it's wonderful to have that. We work really well together. But yes, I think if you weren't a scientist, an engineer would be a good job also. Yeah,
it is a weird balance, I guess, because I am part of a creativity camp in Lithuania, so I've always been around like art as well. Always gone to theater since I was so small, ballets. So I guess I've always had an understanding and a passion for art, but it's always been a way of order. So as you mentioned, I do thrive on order. I need to have a plan. I'm very strategic. I see decisions in the long run, but I'm so happy to be surrounded by people who are creative and who can think outside the box sometimes when I just put myself in it. So to work in a very creative team with you alongside me doing all the chaotic mess with a lot of creative energy that actually helps a lot to build all the processes I have in my head, as well as to put the visions we have. So I'm really happy to put creative people in places rather than suppress anything around us. I just like to make sure we develop the ideas we have, which is lovely to do.
Absolutely. And I think actually creativity it's a spectrum. I've said this many times in this podcast, not today, but with other guests. And it is, we all have different understandings and different ways of interacting with being creative. And actually, that's what makes it so exciting, I think. I love how you were talking there as well about the youth club and the people you're working with back home in Lithuania. So are you still doing that every year? Is that a way that you give back to young people?
Yes. So the only thing, I guess, the only project I'm still working on in Lithuania is the one. So it's a youth camp, a creativity camp, and I've been going to it since I was, I guess, 13. But it would be like my 9th time now, because it's a couple of summers where a few more. But it's about actually immigrant children who've moved away to come back to Lithuania in summers and learn about Lithuania's culture and the heritage and cuisine, everything from history, like any suppressions we had in the country, anything that's worth spreading from the older generations. So I guess what I love about that organization specifically is that it has a deeper meaning to it and a value. So yeah, that's one thing I'm doing. I have been a counselor for 2 years now, and it is in summer, so I'm not sure how I'll manage further on. But now my studies and school before that I had was actually compatible with that kind of schedule. So I'm hoping to continue on this, but it has a deeper value, which I'm so happy to be involved with, and spread my own visuals and creativity and everything in so many ways that can be more appreciative of it.
Absolutely. And you love science, right? So we have a geneticist model who loves SpaceX. Is that even the right word? Yes.
It is, but it's more of projects that I like to follow and see how they move on. Everything from National Geographic to SpaceX to everything that's happening around the world is more of a passion. That's one of the reasons I chose my degree, to actually understand what they're doing, just to support them more rather than be on the wheel it myself.
Yeah. And which is why TED is so cool, because you get to learn so much about the most interesting topics. I know in my ones, so we have in all of our committee, everyone has different interests and different areas and themes they enjoy most. And mine are always like, find the magic in your soul, or how to embrace your courage and vulnerability. But there are some incredible sciencey ones that you love, and happiness and productivity and things like this. So yeah, it's really good. Okay, so what would people be so shocked to find out about you?
I do juggle a lot of responsibilities. I take that as a good thing because it's time management. But one thing that I'm starting to spread, because I think it's spreading warmth and love, is my baking passion. So I've been doing that every Saturday. So every Saturday night, if I'm not working, is my baking night. So I do a lot of little projects, from brownies to pumpkin pies, which don't always work out, to small cookies. It's just something that I crave. And actually last week I made a beautiful sponge cake with half cacao, half vanilla, and it wasn't anything special to actually make, but I was waiting for that Saturday night for 3 days ahead. I was like, I need to bake. I really need to bake. It's my time to do something and to just breathe, even though it's not a big creative project and I've tried to follow recipes, but it's more of my time to do something for me in the busy week that I have, as well as spread the love afterwards and go to every meeting with a piece of cake and be like, hi, can you please give my cake?
And that's your way of nurturing your zest. It's a way that you look after yourself, but not just yourself, other people. Because I know people are big fans of Gabby's cakes, and I can attest to them. They're great. We had some just this Sunday. It's delicious. But yeah, that's how you look after yourself, right? You give to others as well. One thing that's really special that I know is really important for you, and something I see in you that I really respect, is this: how much you love your mom and your grandmother. This idea of appreciating the inspirational women around you and seeing them as role models. It would be great to hear a little bit about that. Why you love your your female role models so much?
Absolutely. I like to say that I come from a line of strong women, but that's because it's absolutely true. That's something that I cherish so much, to have been grown up with strong women, bold and brilliant, and in so many ways. So I guess I didn't, without actually realizing it, I just realized it a few months back, but they have been giving me all the values that I have right now, as well as how to cherish the family, but also the lifestyle you do and build a career you're actually passionate for. They've just been incredible examples of how to balance a lifestyle between a career that's in management with people. You always have to be available and you have to make big decisions, to also having a strong family side to it. So I guess one of the things I'm really passionate about is literally having the balance between the family life and the career that I'm building. So that's why I guess there's such strong models, because they've always been, even though we all make mistakes and there have been a lot of arguments at some points, but it's always coming back from that, or learning how strong they are and how strong can I actually be with all the power and abilities and resources I have behind me supporting me. So that's, I guess, one other thing that drives me towards everything I do is just support I have behind me, which they provided me with since I was very little, even though I came into my family when my mother was just starting university, so it was quite a tough time. But I'm so proud of her and how she got her bachelor's and master's, a few degrees, just literally raising me by her side. So I guess having an example like that, it would be crazy to not look up to her and just respect her in all the ways, as well as my grandmother, always caring about people. She always says it's better to have 100 friends than 100 pounds. And I don't think I agree with that fully, but it's her way of life, meaning she cares about everyone around her and she actually cherishes the relationships and everything she brings into them, and actually tries to understand people and relate to them, which I kind of sometimes don't have myself. So there's a lot I can learn from them, and I don't imagine my life otherwise. And how would I be right now if I didn't have them by my side, showing me the light in the dark room, and how can I actually bring everything around me to be by my side and to learn from new things.
I think that's really special, listening to you talking about your family like that. And I guess that's why I asked, because I already know how much they mean to you. But, there's a lot of talk nowadays about how people are changing, how they interact with each other, how relationships work. We're always on our phones. We're always connected to emails. People don't always see each other anymore. That family time isn't always there. So actually hearing what you're saying there about that giving back to people and surrounding yourself with them, but also the role model of, your mum having you as a young woman and then going to further her studies, do her master's, that is hugely inspiring. I hope she knows she's really cool.
I hope she does. I try to mention as much as possible.
Yeah. So you mentioned you're looking for a placement at the moment, and you've got a few more years of uni left. And we also spoke briefly about doing TEDx, which we both do. And I'm wondering, how does it feel as such a young person to have so much responsibility in terms of managing people and motivating them and helping them to get to do stuff? How does that feel sometimes?
I guess it's important to not lose your head. There are some parts of a month that I just go crazy and I'm like, nothing works with me and I'm a lonely wolf and I do everything. I'm like the human circus, everything's on my plate. But at the same time, I do enjoy being so in charge of my own life. I don't really take account as much as where I am in the positions in a team, as much as I actually have the opportunity to be right here with these people. I would never be. That's why I came here. That's why I'm here, to actually be part of those conversations, those discussions, create big projects that we do. So I guess it does feel a bit overwhelming at times, but that's why I say that I thrive on support. I really, really thrive on support, and everyone that I hold really close to me. There's just a few people, but I really hold close to them because they are the ones to power me through the bad moments and that I have to run through, because I am a people's person. So I guess to have someone by my side, that's what helps me go through with it, but I am learning to step on my own and to actually rely on myself more. but it does feel a bit overwhelming trying to look for a job in a country I'm not even sure what I am looking for myself. And it's been a process of, even this year, this academic year, I started looking for one kind of positions type, and then I went into another, and I was like, no, but why am I trying new things when I know that I want to do project management? I know that I want to do business, and I will do it, even though I'm doing a different degree. I can still show myself with all those skills, transferable skills that I have. So I guess it is a process of forgiving yourself for mistakes that you have, trying to not use your head and all, not even power, but actually everything that you have to control at times, and being able to take that responsibility. But it's really important what you have and who you have besides you. So I have no idea what I would do without you or without my loved ones that I have, and I come back to every night, and I just like, it's really important to have that support for me. So I guess that's what keeps me grounded. But it is quite overwhelming, and I'm learning every day. I'm just keep thinking of conversations that I had where I should have been more professional, or different approaches I should take, and getting ready for each job interview. It is a bit of a long run to development, but I guess that's the route I've taken.
But as well, you said there that you're studying a genetics degree, you're studying science, so you're getting all that technical specialist knowledge. But and you mentioned you would love to go into project management and marketing and business management. But if you think about what you're doing at the moment, being a student leader, volunteering your time in a society, you're actually gaining project management every day. You're doing marketing every day. You are planning communication strategies and trying to motivate people and make sure they have the right resources, and hiring new staff, and dealing with disciplinaries, which we have to do sometimes, or ask people to leave our society, or there are some really challenging things that you're doing. I think, to be honest, before I was a student president in a society, I had no idea how much student societies do. I just thought people got together, had fun, and went home. Mm-hmm. I didn't realize how much work went into do it, particularly the fundraising, which we both know it can be hugely challenging. But actually, it's a really good way to get lots of extra employability skills and confidence and teamwork. I feel like we're both growing so much. And what I really like is I'm 31 and you're 19, and we're learning from each other. It's like I mentor you and you mentor me. It's a really unusual thing.
It really is. But I do think that the best connections are the ones you don't expect to find. So I do sometimes remember the first time I saw you, or the first time I saw other people on my team, but I thought, how am I going to work with these people? These are not people I've ever worked before. How are they going to work? What are their strategies? But I guess that's where your experience really helped. But actually, you being like, you need to know where your boundaries is. We're going to build this. We're going to bump it around each other's shoulders and corners and see where we have to go. So it is about learning from each other. That's really true. But we're going, and I'm hoping we can achieve beautiful things. But with, I guess, what draws you naturally. That's why I'm going to management and business, even though I'm studying a different side, because I do that in my spare time, do that as a hobbies. And I do think I'd be happy in that kind of career.
But I think that's another thing that's so important. So when I grew up, I feel like people said, and I'm so embarrassed to say this, but this is genuinely what people said to me, and it was a long time ago, so hopefully no one said this kind of stuff to you growing up. But people told me, like, oh, you don't need maths, you don't need science, as long as you pray, everything's fine. And I grew up in South Africa. It was a long time ago. I'd like to think times have changed, and the way people talk to young girls is different now. But I look back and I think, well, actually I really loved science, but I didn't really apply myself to it because it just wasn't encouraged for me to do that. And I loved looking at bugs and hanging out, playing with the grass and staring at the sky and the clouds and biology and, the natural system and all the different little creatures. And so actually I think that you can do both. You can do science and makeup. You can do fashion and glitter and sparkles, but also hang out in the labs, in your lab coat. So it doesn't have to be a choice. And I think that's really cool. That there's a lot more discussion now about being able to do this stuff. It's really nice. I that's one of the biggest things I'm happy about that's changed since I was a kid.
True. Even if it's not changed completely, there is a conversation actively happening around it. So that's really, it makes a lot of brightness in the world, and we're building for our children, next generations, I guess. Because I have been discouraged, and I have faced discouragement. When you mention a word as a model, everyone just thinks of a couple things, that you're going to be a super basic. Nothing's going to interest you on a scientific side. So that's why I try to use as many different titles of myself in a sentence when I do, because that's like, I'm sorry, I'm not one thing you expect from your experience. That's not how you build me. And but it's also about me. I'm trying to learn that as well, of being like more open to how people think and how can I approach them. So I guess it's both a two-way conversation about looking at each other in a way that's not as said by the society, but I am really happy that it's happening for the future of our children as well.
Absolutely. And I'm really interested in what you said there actually about labels. Do you feel like when you were explaining yourself as a model or describing yourself, or even when you maybe say that you're studying genetics, do you get a lot of comments? Do people say things about, or you must be really smart, or kind of put their thoughts or labels onto you?
That does happen very often, but I guess that's the way I try to look at it, is that this is their way of coping with the world around them. So we can be really scared of everything we find around each other if we don't actually put it into boxes. That's why I thrive on order, where I'll try to stay open to new possibilities and new ideas. So I guess at one side I am mad at that, and used to be super upset. I used to not mention it to anyone unless it was really I wanted to, or I was trying. Then it changed, and I was trying to make an impression. There were so many stages with different labels that I had. But I guess at this point I'm just really trying to know the people rather than put them into my boxes. That helps me understand them better, which can be so hard sometimes, and to struggle with how other people approach their mental health. Even it's like, how could you do this to yourself? And they're like, I'm this way, and it's okay. So I guess the labels that they put on me are the labels that help them rather than should push me down. So I'm trying to make myself aware of that. It's to helping them, not for actually pushing me down, and it's just their way of coping with the world. But it has been challenging at times to make them see myself as more than some labels they have created and described from their own experience, which is nothing compared to mine. But I guess we all do it at times. That's why I keep saying that I'm learning, because I am actively learning about all of these things. But it has been challenging at times. That's why I'm so happy that it's changing and we're having more open conversations, and we're running a platform like TEDx to actually speak about the things that matter and can help out.
And speaking of that, what is your number one TED Talk?
I can't remember the exact name, but it's How Is Your Mind Work? Or How Is Your Brain Work? But it's about when does your morality actually develop? And it's about a case of, it has a brilliant speaker. She's truly amazing. She knows clearly what she's talking about, and she draws the audience in. That's the perfect TED Talk, honestly. But it was more about taking children from 3 years old to 5 years old and seeing what kind of consequences you face when you make some moral choices. How does it affect others around you? So it is about how our brain develops, which is the scientific side that I love, but it's also about how we can help each other overgo those changes, and how can it be different, how your morals are very different to mine morals, and how every consequence. It says a stupid example about a sandwich coming down from a table, but the person that went down doesn't know, and how you pick up another sandwich. It's not as complicated, but it's honestly about just how we see the situations and not actually see the full picture sometimes, or we see it in our perspective. So it's more about consider each other and consider how you're developing in your own time and your own pace. So I guess that's why I love it so much, even though she's a brilliant speaker as she is.
Okay, awesome. And have you ever read a book that's changed your life?
I'm really struggling with reading books. I'm trying to get into it more. And there's one book that I remember. It's like, I think it's 7 rules on how to get people to like you. But it was more about not actually making yourself likable, but it's what people care about, how you communicate with them, what matters to them. So it's being like not necessarily the goal is for them to like me, but to be more fluent in conversations and to actually know what people are expecting, how different rules in different environments, from professional to personal to home environment, if you're going as a guest. So I guess it just gave me an approach of how to actually present myself in different situations, which I enjoy now because I don't get as lost when I'm put in places I don't know how to be or how to act. But again, I can't remember the author. I'm terrible with names sometimes.
That's fine. That's fine. And actually, that's a really good point, because we're all from all over the world, or most of the people I hang out with. I've got more friends who are international than living in the UK. And I think it can be really hard sometimes to go into situations and not understand what someone is upset about, or what they don't understand why, if they've been late, it's a problem for someone else, or just social niceties and all the etiquette around things can be such a minefield. So yeah, I think it's really interesting to hear that book. I'm going to try and check it out. It's not How to Win Friends and Influence People, is it?
No. It says 7 rules on how to get people to like you, but It's more about...
Okay, cool. Well, I'll look at that. So just one thing before you go. What is your number one word to nurture your zest?
I guess on a personal level, that would be support. Because I am nothing without the people around me. I always say that I need to spread the word and spread the power that my family and that I have, and the abilities that we can bring into the world, rather than what I can do on my own. So I really try to carry the culture and my beliefs and my actually morals and everything I have around me towards the things I'm going to as well. So I guess that's support.
I like that. It's really special. It makes me think of community. We say in Africa, there's a word called Ubuntu, which means that it's about the people around you and how you come together, and you don't leave anyone behind. You really bring each other up. And it's a really special concept. So I like this idea of that support. And I know that together we will do that with TEDx and all of our other projects. And we will support each other and have that community. So thank you so much for coming on the show.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah. Bye.
Bye.
You've been listening to Nurture Your Zest. You can find us online on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram and LinkedIn at Nurture Your Zest. If you've liked today, please subscribe. You can also leave us a review if you're feeling extra kind. Today's podcast has been made available through the kind sponsorship of TL Multimedia and That Branding Company. We look forward to catching up with you again soon as you learn to nurture your zest.